Hi, parents and families. This is a quick screencast to explain the new grading for learning system we use here at the middle school. It's a system that will be used in all your child's classes here at JYMS and also at the high school. I figured I make screencasts like this all the time for my students so that they can learn kind of on their own pace and on their own, and I figured this would be a great way to explain the new grading system to you. So, if you like this screencast and want me to make more about some of the mysteries here at the middle school, please let me know. I'm happy to do that. I can also answer your questions by email or phone. So reach out if you have questions that are lingering at this point in the year. So let me show you an assessment that is just a sample. And the scenario is this. Imagine your child here at the middle school is in a class that we call Sesame Street class. And throughout the course of this class, they're learning all about Sesame Street, all about the characters. And we just completed a 6-week unit on Bert and Ernie. So, no, that's a strange scenario, but this is the scenario I use to explain it to my students. So I'm going to use the same one here, and then you can ask them about it, and they can probably tell you some things about the new grading system too. So here is the assessment, and this is just a sample, and most of the assessments at the middle school will look like this. So you can see here is the Grading for Learning sample quiz. At the top, this is a little rubric, and this is where we'll circle the grade for your child. And the grade can fall into 4 categories: beginning, developing, proficient, or advanced. And they kind of start here and work their way this way. On a side note, in science, it is not surprising that students would fall at this beginning level at this point in the year, because the amount of science they receive at the elementary schools varies, and in some cases isn't very extensive, so they may be at the beginning, and that's okay. You want to look for growth and see them working their way towards advanced, and they only need to hit advanced a couple times toward the end of the quarter or semester to be given a grade of advanced. We are grading them based on what they know at the end point, not an average of their grade over the whole quarter. So their grade should just reflect what they know at that point in the year, or what they can demonstrate at that point in the year. So then always we'll put the learning target up here, and that will be the learning targets that show on the report card. And then in these boxes, there will be descriptors for what the child should be able to do to get that grade. So you can see over here that in beginning, it's kind of recognize, recall, usually multiple choice, short answer. Then developing, in my class, they're going to be able to use, explain, describe. Usually there's a model or a diagram they have to use. To be proficient, they might have to create their own model, draw a conclusion, develop something, investigate something, have a lab, or design an investigation. And then finally here under advanced, this is where they take what they know and apply it to a new situation. So conducting an experiment they've designed and reporting out their results, applying their model to a new situation. This is sort of where they really have to stretch themselves. Usually in the advanced category, questions will require lots of time and thought. There's a little star down here that says students can also receive a score of unmet. That's like a 0, or back in my day would be like an F if they haven't met the standard at this point. This sometimes happens to students if they have to make corrections. So if you ever see a score of unmet, it can be fixed. It's just the start of a conversation between us and our students to kind of work out what their grade should be. So then the way this quiz works is, if you look the way down the quiz, they're sort of working their way through it, and wherever they end up is where their grade will be. So this section is the beginning section, and there's always a spot for feedback, and there's an opportunity for, this is where I provide feedback for the students and also give them an opportunity to improve their score. And in order to be beginning, so in order to get a grade of beginning, they generally need to completely master this area of the test. That means that if we just spent 6 weeks learning about Bert and Ernie, I expect them to be able to tell me who Bert and Ernie are, and if they can't, they have not met the standard. So usually for me, the amount of terms or ideas I will ask them about in this section are limited, but I really expect them to know it and demonstrate it. So this is an example of a question I might ask. Here's Bert and Ernie, and I'm going to expect them to tell me who they are. So just recall of the characters we've been learning about for 6 weeks. Now, again, I teach science, so this is just an example related to all classes. In the developing section, so they finish this section, then they move on to developing, and if they got all this correct, then they are at the beginning level. So then moving on to developing, I might ask a question for how they're going to use this picture to describe, to explain. Those are the verbs that fall into this developing category. So here I ask them to use the picture of Bert and Ernie to describe a scenario of what is happening in the picture using evidence from the image to support your response. So the answer I got most commonly from students about this picture this year is that they were creating a science podcast, and that's why they have notes in front of them and a microphone, which is a fantastic answer, including evidence from the picture that would definitely get them a score of developing. Then in the proficient category, they have to create, usually in this class, they have to create their own model, especially first quarter. They might need to create a diagram or write a concluding paragraph. But here I wrote that they should create a model or diagram explaining the differences between the characters. Make sure you point out both physical and personality differences. You may use all your resources, investigations, and classwork to assist with this question. So this is where they kind of go through all they've learned and organize it and create a model or something that shows sort of their path of learning. So an example of how they might answer this question is a Venn diagram. Also, I might ask them to create a model of a scenario or a model of a science idea. Like for instance, on their test today, they had to create a model of two objects that have different volumes but the same mass, and label their diagrams so that I could tell what they were showing. Then in the advanced category, here the advanced question says, Ernie and Bert were given their names from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. Watch the following clips and read the following scripts to evaluate some similarities and differences between the movie and cartoon characters. Write your response in multiple paragraphs. Now, multiple paragraphs might be a stretch at this point in the year for sixth graders, but I am asking for a really thorough response. And I would kind of coach them in how to do that. And this would be a skill that we worked on in class. So then I would give them a menu of resources to help with their answer, and they would use these resources to provide me evidence for their grade. So then sort of wherever the student successfully lands, that is their score. So if a student gets to this point and has an excellent proficient answer to a question, then up here on the rubric, I would circle a proficient, and that is the grade that you would see in the grade book. If at any point a student gets a grade they're not happy about, they can revisit it and start a conversation with me to improve their score. So never look at a grade as the grade that they're stuck with. It's only the grade that they received the first time around, because we are grading for learning, and pushing them towards doing their best is sometimes what it takes when we're looking at quizzes and tests and projects and assessments. But this top part, you should become used to seeing on all assessments that students are taking here at the middle school. So I know this was a really long video. Maybe you watched it, maybe you didn't, but hopefully it gives you a little window into how we're grading at the middle school. If you have questions, please ask. If you have concerns, please ask. Again, the beginning, developing, proficient, and advanced are very similar to the 1, 2, 3, and 4 that your child received at elementary school. However, we feel like it's a lot more straightforward and easy for parents to understand when your child comes home and says, I got an advanced on my test today, rather than saying I got a 4. We just felt like the number system was a little bit vague, and so this should give you a much clearer idea of how we're giving grades to your kiddos and what they can do for improvement, and sort of what grading for learning looks like here at the middle school. All right, thank you so much for your time. And if there are any other things you want me to tackle by screencast or email or phone, please reach out and just let me know. Thank you so much.